President Cyril Ramaphosa is in Washington for his all-important meeting with his American counterpart, Donald Trump. The president is hoping to set the record straight after months of unsubstantiated claims by Trump and his administration on some of South Africa's policies and the general state of affairs in our country. Now, the White House has been vocal against South Africa's genocide case against U.S. ally Israel before the International Court of Justice. Ramaphosa has repeatedly sought to give clarity, calling for a dialogue. Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo is live to us from Washington, D.C. with the very latest. Ziyanda, it's great to see you, and there is so much hanging on in terms of this meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Even critics of President Cyril Ramaphosa will tell you that they believe he is the best person for the job and for such what will clearly be a difficult conversation.
Absolutely. And as we've been saying over the last couple of days, Cyril Ramaphosa, the man, is going to be very important for this moment, Michelle. His demeanor, his negotiating skills, his ability to be unflappable in the face of criticism. As you know, even back home, we often have seen criticism being waged against the president for being slow and for taking a while to respond. Perhaps that will assist in him not being drawn into some kind of rage baiting from the Trump administration. I can tell you that at 10 o'clock local time, the president will be meeting with the other ministers who form part of his delegation to get an understanding of where things stand, the meetings that have been held, and the plans for tomorrow. As well as the media, there'll be a technical briefing behind closed doors to discuss how things will work, the security, aspects of it as we prepare to enter into the Oval Office at the White House right behind me. And Michelle, I can tell you, even though there hasn't been a program that's officially been distributed, we've been seeing on social media some of the engagements that the ministers have been having. This morning we saw Park Stawu on his social media posting that they met with the U.S. Trade Representative, Ambassador Jameson, ahead of those preparations, aligning investment priorities to deepen bilateral ties. And you'll recall that in the presidency statement, they're saying that that's precisely what this gathering is going to be about, the working visit, that is, that it's going to be to reset those bilateral and economic ties. So it's going to largely hinge on trade and what both countries have to offer each other in this mutually beneficial cooperation between the U.S. and South Africa.
Trade, certainly, Ziyanda, and, there are many industries in South Africa that are looking to the president to have those talks. We know that tariffs are on hold for now, but industries like citrus, they are under an enormous amount of pressure to continue those trade relations with the U.S. But, of course, perhaps top of the agenda will be the White House's unsubstantiated claims of a white genocide here in South Africa. And, when we talk about U.S. President Donald Trump and his engagements with presidents of other nations where he has had disagreements, we often think of that disastrous engagement he had with the Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky, and we all hope for something like that to be avoided here.
Absolutely. But, a month, a week, a few days in politics is a long time. I mean, just look at what The Economist is reporting just over the last few hours, that Elon Musk seems to be out of the inner circle of Donald Trump, and there's speculation that he won't be running the Deutsche for much longer, and that the anti-immigration sentiment has also seemingly turned on him. So when you talk about the issue of the 49 white Afrikaners, perhaps there has been some sense of wanting to change the narrative, maybe with Donald Trump, the man, but maybe not so much with the officials in his government. And I say this because it's been largely believed that the relationship between Musk and Trump has been what has influenced Trump's understanding of our Expropriation Act, where he's consistently said that there's land confiscation in South Africa, and the issue of the white Afrikaners. However, on the other side here, Michelle, you would have seen that there was an interview conducted on CBS News where Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who we also expect to form part of tomorrow's delegation on the side of the U.S., really digging in his heels and saying that they're looking to expand the scope of this refugee program that's been extended to white Afrikaners as a minority group in South Africa, and maintaining that there is still a white genocide. How much of that is linked to trade? Well, we're yet to see the thread, but it's very clear from other examples that Trump doesn't always walk the talk. In his first administration, he had disparaging things to say about the Middle East, countries such as Saudi Arabia. And just last week, he was there and came back with trillions of dollars in oil deals from that particular country. It's unclear what their Africa policy is, but the fact that President Cyril Ramaphosa is the first African head of state to come to the United States to meet with the Trump administration since his return as the 47th president of the United States is something worth harping on about. And it's all going to depend on how the South African government, led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, leverages this moment, not only from an optics and PR perspective when it comes to issues such as land confiscation and a white genocide, which I must say most of the world, especially the global north, has rejected as a falsehood, but also from an economic ties perspective. We heard from Vincent Magwenya yesterday is saying that, they're looking to expand trade between the two countries, whether it's under the auspices of the AGOA program or even on the side. So many options are on the table here.
There are, of course, so many other geopolitical issues that will feed into this meeting, Ziyanda. Perhaps chief among them, U.S. ally Israel and South Africa's case against that country at the ICJ.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle, that's something that many have said is actually not necessarily a huge issue. In fact, South Africa and the U.S. in many aspects are close to each other in terms of perspective when you look at the fact that both countries have called for a two-state solution. In fact, the main point of contention here is the issue about the modalities and how we reach that stage. And of course, Donald Trump hinting at wanting to annex Palestine. But in essence, South Africa and the U.S. are not far apart from each other. So, and that's the thing, right? There's a sense that with all these things that have consistently been explained, Michelle, that doesn't seem to be at the root of what Donald Trump wants. There's something else that Donald Trump wants from South Africa. He hasn't said it maybe publicly and has been cherry picking on these issues of Israel, the expulsion of Ibrahim Rasool, threatening to cancel AGOA, even though it's mutually beneficial for both countries. Whether you're talking about now this so-called white genocide and this executive order, it's clear that the attention of Donald Trump is firmly on South Africa, but it's unclear what the real issue is here, given how, there are many countries that have also supported South Africa's case before the ICJ, but they are not being targeted or being picked on, so to speak. So it's very clear that, there's something else here. It's not about the G20 and the alignment. It's clear maybe South Africa is caught up between the tiff between the US and China, but even still, I wouldn't, overstate the issue of the ICJ case. Surely, of course, it will be on the agenda, but perhaps we'll get a better sense come tomorrow what it is that is agreed on. And yeah, of course, as you've mentioned, a lot of concern, anxiety around whether or not Cyril Ramaphosa will be humiliated at the hands of Donald Trump in the Oval Office, which has become his political theater.
Ziyanda Ngcobo, live to us in Washington. Ziyanda, great to see you. Thanks very much indeed. Of course, as we're building up to that all-important meeting with Donald Trump tomorrow. Well, let's stay with that story.